In Australia, education hasn't always been mandatory. There was a period of time when there wasn't even a standard for it. Education was only available to middle and upper class people who could afford tuition. Although during the 19th century the churches managed the schools, several years later the government allocated resources for education, creating schools, creating public schools to continue educating children and teenagers, and most of the schools that were run by the churches were left out of the educational system. The government created a study plan and rules for teachers and students, regardless of the structure of the school. Most of the learning was by heart. Most of the learning was by heart, and the students learned world capitals, historical dates, poems, and practiced gymnastics to maintain physical activity. Years later, in Australia, education was proposed to be compulsory. It was a very complicated purpose to fulfill, since the training school didn't have the condition to shelter large number of students. But fortunately, measures were adopted to solve those problems in the 20th century, especially in Tasmania, Queensland, and Western Australia. This aspect lasted until 1950. From this year, changes were generated and have helped to create quality education for Australians. Also, in this same year, the telephone and radio were very significant for distant education, while in 1951 the Australian Air School were created, so that through them geographically isolated children could participate